happening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Fantasy Wiffleball podcast. I'm your host, Peter Leicht, and I'm joined with three under-the-radar yet legendary players from three of the greatest franchises of the SWBL Wiffleball League. We're here with you to break down the recently released player values for 2020 Fantasy Wiffleball. We'll give you our thoughts on players that are both undervalued and overrated. And we'll make some other general predictions, have a good time. We're just here to inform. So without further ado, let's get it on. Let's go ahead and do some introductions here. When you think Rockies, you probably think first of Captain Blake Spencer, a perennial MVP candidate every year. Then you may think of Brian Kenny, the Platinum Hands nominee year in and year out. But what you need to start thinking of is Grant Boyd, who has spent 8 years with the Rockies, giving him a ton of street cred, more playoff experience than most, a couple championships, a Rookie of the Year in 2012. And he's just a solid average hitter from the left side of the plate. Grant, how we doing?
Ooh, solid average. I'm doing good. I was doing better before that little slide at the back end, but nonetheless, thanks for having us. Glad to be invited to your home gym there.
Yep, that's right. We might dunk on some people later in one of our segments, Grant. Also, definitely enjoy the Battlehawks logo decal you have on the hat. Cacaw, man.
Cacaw.
And Grant, I'd love to just get right into it with you. When we're talking fantasy, I want to take you back to 2012. As I mentioned, you were the Rookie of the Year. Pretty close to winning the Cy Young. Your pitching numbers, I'm going to repeat them because they are pretty solid. Tied for first in innings pitched and complete games. Led the league in strikeouts with 18. We didn't track earned runs back then, but we all know the Rockies made the playoffs. Brett Spencer ended up winning Cy Young, Cy Wiffle that year. But your numbers are looking pretty solid. And knowing that Brett is on the way out of the Rockies organization, will we see Grant Boyd on the mound in 2020?
Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be making an appearance this year. I did have that one good year. To be honest, just started getting smacked around a bit. The good news is we got a couple of dedicated pitchers on the rise in Kyle Breida and rookie Chad Young. I did get word that Breida's actually been self-isolating in his basement. And it's just him, a bag of wiffle balls, a George Foreman grill, and 72 all-beef hot dogs. So I think we'll be fine.
You can't bet against that, and I'm assuming we're going to hear the name Kyle Breida later on in this show. Let's jump to our second guest. Let's talk Yankees. When you think Yanks, what do you think of? Scott Pulley, the perennial MVP contender who's always shirtless. Maybe you think of Jackson Crossley, everybody's favorite Cy Wiffle candidate. But let me tell you, you need to start thinking about John Calloway, the cornerstone in left field, the 2011 Rookie of the Year, another high average hitter from the left side of the plate, who's going to be solid at the top of the lineup. John, what's new?
Oh, not much, man. Just hunkering down here like most of us. I'll tell you what, after Grant's great entrance there, I might be shaking a little bit about Breida. What a guy. Talk about commitment to the game. But, back to us. I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to be here, excited to talk wiffle ball and fantasy with you guys.
I think we're all excited here. And John, of course, I'm gonna go right into it with you as well. As I mentioned, Yankees are reigning champs. In the first 7 years of the franchise era, we always saw Chris Metter or Brian Kenny kind of hoist the title at the end of the year, those tier one left fielders. Now you've kind of joined the ranks, maybe given hope to some other, tier two, even tier three fielders that, it's possible. Talk about the championship run. What are your thoughts after such an amazing season last year?
Yeah, year in and year out, you have to tip your caps to guys like Chris and Brian. Their skills are far above anyone else in the league. very solid. I like to think that outside of them, I am in that upper tier fielder on the left side. But speaking towards the championship run, I think if you look at the statistics, the Yankees, we go through those ebbs and flows every other year. For some reason, that seems to be the trend for us. But what I love about the boys in blue is that we have enough skill and enough confidence to where you can never count us out. And somehow, even when we're having a down year, you find us in playoff potential.
Wow, I want to sign a Yankee contract after that speech. I love that. Glad to have you. Let's go to our third guest there. Let's talk Twins. I'm going to repeat the same thing I've been saying. When you think Twins, you probably think of Chris Metter, who we've briefly mentioned. Greatest left fielder in the game nationally, dare I say it, and a 5-time champ. Maybe then you think of Spencer Bogad, Mr. SportsCenter top 10, perennial MVP candidate. But if you're cool and smart, you think of Sir Edloe Donnan. He is a league veteran, certainly a legend. Spent his first 4 years with the Royals, next 4 with the Phillies Twins. Most widely known as a 2-time champ, 69 career wins, giggity, proud owner of a brand new website. Edloe, how you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine, Peter. Thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to talk some values and some current steals that I saw there on the chart the other day.
We appreciate any insight that you are willing to, share with us, as opposed to kind of, keeping it up there for your own financial gain. I mentioned it briefly. Everyone's talking in the league about the new website. Talk about the new website that you've acquired, the domain, what you plan to feature in the coming years, and how it kind of ties into the SWBL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually heard about this yesterday, about this website that's floating around there. I was not aware of it. I have no hand in it, no part in the purchase of the domain name from GoDaddy.com for $11.99. None of that was me. I like to say there is somebody in the background. I don't know who he is, but he just wants to make sure that the record is set straight on who the number 7 on the home run ranking is. And, basically wanted to get the word out for some of the biggest fan favorite out there. So whoever that is, I appreciate him. It's very nice of him, but like I said, I am not affiliated or connected to it whatsoever in any way, shape, or form.
It's interesting. We have fans all over the globe, and you never know what they're doing, kind of behind our backs to support us and kind of get the word out. So appreciate that, guys. Glad to have you. Before we jump into some of the detail, let's first talk about the elephant in the room. That would be the COVID-19 pandemic and the current situation that we find ourselves in. Are we going to play wiffle ball Memorial Day weekend like we've been accustomed to over the past 7-8 years? The front office recently got together. It sounds like, around May 1st, there's going to be, an official statement from our beloved commissioner, Sam Skibby. And we are going to have to figure out really, really soon, are we going to play? Are we going to push it to Labor Day? That seems to be the favorite. So really curious to hear from you three. How would a switch from Memorial Day to Labor Day in September impact you both personally and your overall team? We'll start with you, John.
Yeah, certainly. That is the elephant in the room, so it seems. It's the elephant just sitting on Mother Earth here, right? But personally, if we were to make that switch from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend, I unfortunately would be gone due to my brother's wedding that weekend. I'd be deeply saddened to see it move, but at the end of the day, we need to be safe. The numbers are trending in the right direction, but that doesn't mean we're in a good spot. So as we come down to the wire here, we're hoping for some better news, but certainly leaving the team and being that left field cornerstone role since the existence of this new era we've been in, I have to assume that there'd be a void over there for the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect too much. Maybe history shows the Yankees were 5-5 every year without John Calloway and left. What can you do? I think it's going to be tough to overcome. Grant, how about you and the Rockies? Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so I would be missing at least all of Friday and Saturday for a wedding out in KC. And I did just hear that Chad could have some conflicts as well. In our group meet, he said something about some sort of new baby in the works and potentially, having a 1 or 2 week old at that time. But he did say his wife should be fine. So I'm thinking we'll be able to field a full squad.
Oh man, yeah, that's something that a lot of players are starting to experience. You're growing your family together, but it sometimes comes at the detriment of 4 days of drinking and playing outside with your friends, just like the old days. So interesting story. And Edloe, how about you? What's it going to be for you at Labor Day, as well as the Twins overall, who I know you are in very close conversation with the Twins management every single day, multiple times a day.
Yeah, well, I mostly talk to them via signed and written letter, but what I've been hearing lately is that my wedding actually might be pushed to that Labor Day that they're discussing, which not necessarily that important. What I really wanted to talk about was a new plan that I have formulated for this weekend of the SWBL. Are you aware of the Zoom platform?
I am. Two aware.
Yeah, so this is my idea would be a wiffle ball through Zoom, and I want to test this out. So, Peter, go ahead and throw me your best pitch. Oh, and you see right there.
Damn,
Grand slam hit all the way up top of the pine tree. That's what we would be doing, and that's exactly what we could do all weekend. Just do a little bit here, a little bit there, and that's my next plan for this year.
I would love to keep stats for the finals of that game.
A lot of grand slams for me, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not playing, of course, that's understandable. Well, sad to hear. We never want to talk about the possibility of not playing wiffle ball Memorial Day weekend, but we must adapt to our current situation, and no doubt we will play at some point and keep the tradition going. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for the personal stories there. We are going to jump right into the fantasy detail right after one more bonus question that was just texted to me from a former veteran of the league who shall remain nameless. But what the people want to know is, think about, the league, we've honored 4 major awards year in, year out. You've got your MVP, Cy Wiffle, your Platinum Hands, and your Rookie of the Year. But if we were to add a 5th award to the mix, what individual award do you think the SWBL should start honoring this season? And who would be your favorite for said award? John, can we start with you?
Sure can. I thought long and hard about this, Pete, and I think we should introduce an award that's first to arrive, last to leave. In normal circumstances, if you're a sports guy, when people say those words, you think, all right, who's the guy getting up earlier than necessary? He's putting in extra reps. He's always a gamer during game time, and even after the games, he's putting in practice reps. But no, not this award. It's the first to arrive at the dawn when the sun comes up, right? And he's the first one to open a beer, and he's and as the day goes by, his car remains in the same spot. And next thing you know, you can't see the wiffle ball in front of your face. But you know what he's doing? He's just ripping a keg stand from the Brewers this year. And
swing away.
Right. Just letting it rip.
Love
and
that.
the odd thing about this, I wouldn't give it to one individual person. I would give it to the Expos. The whole team.
It certainly screams team award to me. And I know that, Sam had mentioned to me that he has a waiting list. I think it's 9 or 10 deep, but they're looking to pitch some tents kind of out in right field, kind of in the woods there. But there's a long list of people who, they don't want to go home. They would like to get some family-sized tents, some changing tables for the young ones, and really just kind of hibernate there. They're willing to pay, cover charges or typical hotel or rental fees directly to the skibbies. sounds like a great idea. I'm actually number 3 on the list. I'm hoping that the first 2 kind of, have to back up for some reason, but that's a lot to look forward to there. Love that, John. And Grant Boyd, what are your thoughts on a new award to start honoring?
Well, similar to John's, mine is focused on, the camaraderie and the greatness of the weekend as a whole. I was thinking more along the lines of Sweatiest Belly Button Award. And I have an edge. I think I know pretty confidently who would win it, and that would be Kyle Breida. The actual volume of sweat in there varies throughout the weekend, but we think he tops out around 2 tablespoons. But I think that if he was pushed, we could get that up 2.5, maybe 3. But yeah, that would be my vote.
I feel like we've done a couple podcasts. I hear the name Kyle Breida almost every other sentence. He's an athlete. He's a competitor. He's a freak of nature in yard games and athletics and belly button types of things. Really looking forward to getting together with him this season. Edloe, Donnan, how about you?
I think it's about time that we start an award for one of the people who most shows the traits that the SWBL puts forward in people that we respect. And I think the only person you should name this after would just have to be Sam Bakula. So I think that we make the Sam Bakula Memorial Trophy RIP, miss him already.
He might be the front runner. I think that'd be pretty solid. A good looking statue. We have to admit, shirt on, shirt off. Any thoughts on the actual hardware?
I don't know. I just know I miss him. I know I miss him a hell of a lot.
Yeah. I like to follow him on social media. He's a good guy.
He was a good guy. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for that. I know, a lot of viewers have been waiting for us to get into the fantasy detail here. So we're going to do just that. I'm going to provide a quick overview on, this new process we're doing, and we'll start talking about some hitters. So first thing, this is the first time we're doing this. So we modeled this idea off of some of our brethren in Indianapolis from Circle City Wiffle Ball. Basically, you will build a roster of 6 players. You'll have 3 hitters, 2 pitchers, and a fielder, and a $20 budget. Player values go up to $5. If you're a stud, you're going to be $5, but you can get down below $1 and get player for 50 cents if you think they're a deep sleeper there. Only $5 to enter the actual tournament. We are accepting multiple rosters per person if you want to, diversify and, do a few different lineups. At this point, we have 25 verbal contestants. We've received 5 lineups, but, as we mentioned, maybe things will change over the course of the next few weeks, and we will adjust as we need to. So really looking forward to it, and we're going to dive right in. And the interesting thing about this is that each person is broken up into, a hitter, a fielder, or a pitcher. If you want Chris Metter to be your fielder and left, but you don't want him as a pitcher, you can just take that little piece of him. So it definitely helps, spread the love. A lot of guys are 3-tool players in our league, but a lot of guys aren't. So you really want to pinpoint what part of their body do you like the most. It's weird, but it's actually a critical part of this process. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to ask all you guys to pick 2 players, 2 hitters to be specific, that you think are undervalued. The values have been distributed. We're taking into account, historical stats, projected lineups and standings, recent news, things like that. But Grant, we'll start with you. Can you talk about 2 players that you've identified that you think are solid investments and certainly undervalued in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this first one may not come as a huge surprise, but Blake Spencer looking real good. He's a top tier guy in my opinion, and you're getting him really at a tier 2 price when you break it down. He's a full $1 cheaper than Gus, who's at $5, and 50 cents cheaper than Bogad, Sam, and Scott. But he was 3rd last year in fantasy points per at bat, and this year should be getting the volume of at-bats that he deserves. So yeah, I mean, I'm happily paying the $4 it takes for him to be my fantasy.
Definitely.
Another guy I'm crazy about is Keaton Adams. First year guy last year. I couldn't tell you what he looks like. Thinking he's about average height build. But you know, he apparently was just crushing the ball last year, hitting a 33% home run rate, which was 5th highest in the league. And interestingly, had the league's lowest BABIP at .067, where league average was 363. Now, I know that's a pretty thin stat, but what it tells me is he's probably hitting a ton of fly balls when he makes contact, which, you know, that's either going to turn into an out, an error, or it's out of the park. But that's really what you want, I think, in this league. And with a little bit of natural progression going into his second year, I could see him turning into a home run machine. And, you know, he certainly has a path towards improving in the batting average department. So, all that said, I think he's looking like an absolute snack down there at $2.50. So I'll probably wind up exposing myself to him a bit too much.
That's a solid pick. I think, I mean, if the Astros are going to have any success, you know, there's a lot of pressure on Keaton to kind of step up and be the guy, big power guy. And I mean, I think we got off to the great start. You hit a home run when you mentioned Blake Spencer, certainly undervalued, and he's actually my slam dunk pick of the week. John Calloway. How about two guys that you would call undervalued?
Yeah, my two guys, both valued at $2.50, and oddly enough, when you look at that $2.50 bucket, we have such a wide range of under and overvalued players. I'll save the over for the latter part of this podcast. But, you know, when I look at this group of guys and I see names like Derek Cornell and Luke Bacula, I have a hard time saying no. Because when you look at those two guys, let's talk about raw athleticism and brute strength. I take those two qualities over guys that may not have much exposure to the league as of yet, but are guys that you can certainly always put your money on to come out on top. You know, Derek, this is his first full season, I believe, for the Brewers. He didn't get a full season in last year, but having played a lot of baseball with him growing up, seeing the skill, and just his ability to adjust at the plate even last year when he was there, put that all together, puts a lot of confidence in me. And Luke Bacula, we all know him. The guy's a carbon copy of his older brother, Sam. So I could see a lot of good things coming from him, whether it's this year or the years coming.
So those are solid picks at $2.50, as you mentioned. You know, if you want to splurge for Gus or maybe a Bogad Poli Blake combination, you're going to have to dig deep for some of those guys, and huge potential for sure. And Edloe, how about yourself?
Well, thanks, Peter. When you're looking at drafts like this, what I like to focus on is average fantasy point per dollar spent. Okay, when you look at it that way, the number one person in the entire league for fantasy is none other than Corey McCarthy. Despite a great season last year, people are still sleeping on him. I think he is a great bang for your buck. And the second one that I'm going to say, it's going to be a little bit confusing to some people. Some people aren't going to believe it. Some people are going to be like, oh, no, he's not good. Some people are going to say he really just doesn't have any skills. But I want to say Jeremy Worrell at $1.50 is an incredible value. He's number 3 overall in fantasy points per dollar spent. Now, let me tell you what one Jeremy Worrell could get you. It could get you 3 Kevin Skibbies, 50 cents each, or it could get you 3 Kevin Wheatuckers. But let me tell you, 3 Kevin Wheatuckers together, all standing in front of the plate, each with a wiffle ball bat, would not do as well as Jeremy Worrell will do in 2020. Book it.
That's a great answer. And, you know, for the 2 players that I've isolated, you know, their names have already been mentioned. You know, you got Corey McCarthy, who you just mentioned, Edloe. I think if you're willing to trust a small sample size, he's definitely worth the gamble. We saw Ty Butler come in as a rookie and compete for MVP, and he maintained his superior offense performance. I think Corey could do the same. And I like Derek Cornell, John, as well. High average guy, gets on base at a high clip. You may not get as much power, but you're going to get maybe the guy hitting at the top of the Brewers lineup. Certainly a lot of success last year and hopefully more opportunity this year. Great. Awesome, talking about the offense. And now let's move on to pitching. Here we go. Let me feel it. Thank you, guys. And now let's move on to pitching category. We've got Jackson Crosby at a $5 prize, kind of leading the charge. He's in a tier of his own, of course. A couple Expos coming in the top 4. You maybe thought you wouldn't hear that before you died, but it's true. There's a lot of middle tier pitchers out there that maybe they don't have a ton of experience. Maybe you're not that confident in them, but there's a lot of potential. So let's talk about pitching. Grant, let's go to you. Do you have a couple pitchers you've had your eye on this offseason?
Thank you, Pete. That was an excellent transition. Cheers. So Jackson Crosby's at $5, right?
That's right.
Most expensive pitcher on the board. Pitching is really, I'm going to want to mix in some stable floor guys, and Jackson feels like the most sure bet there is to be targeting wins, innings pitched, strikeouts. So I think I'm going to have a lot of ownership of him. Maybe not necessarily an undervalued buy, but he'll certainly be a target of mine. More on the cheap end, I'm looking at both the Rockies pitchers. Kyle Breida at $3. Chad is cheaper than that. But they're both going to be getting about 50% of our innings, I think. And both are looking pretty filthy in terms of the pitches they're working on and the action that they had. And Kyle's had a lot of success already out there. So, I'm optimistic.
I love those answers. I definitely agree with you on Jackson. He was one of my picks. I mean, I'd pay $5.50. I'd probably pay $6 for him. You need an ace to be a leader of your team, and I think he's exactly that. John Calloway, let's go to you. You got a couple guys in mind?
I do. To echo what Grant was saying, I think Chad has a little bit of the unknown variable with him, but if I'm comparing the pitchers on the Rockies roster, I go with Chad over Breida, especially with the value placed on his head. My second guy is Paulie Castellano. He has the ability to change his pitches up. He's pretty good at spotting most of his pitches. And with that first strike rule, I think it'll be a big plus, and it's attractive for somebody to take that risk on him.
Perfect. And Edloe, how about you? You got a couple guys?
Yeah. First of all, in underrated pitchers, I'd like to say myself. There's some things in the works. There's a couple more innings coming my way. And I think the value that I'm getting, which is currently equal to the value of Kevin Skibby, should be a little bit higher maybe with my increased volume and pitch load. So that's one. And my second is Steve Hayes. Now, what you might not have known is Steve had a little bit more elective surgery in the offseason. So both his knees are now stabilized. He's got cadaver ACLs in both knees. And he also decided to elect to do elbows as well, not for performance, but for cosmetic. So he's going to be out there. He's going to be like a brand new $1 million robot man, and he's going to be able to throw the whole year if he can.
It's impressive. That's new information to me. I did not know any of that, but you sold me.
Mm-hmm.
For myself, as I mentioned, I had Jackson Crosby on my list. I would pay a pretty penny for him to lead my team. I do like Breida. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity, but I definitely want to. I'd say for $2.50, sign me up for Jimmy South. He missed last season. We know David Olderman has gone over to the Astros. That's going to be 20 plus innings that are going to need to be replaced. Kyle Cornell may step up and kind of be the ace of the team, but he's never pitched 30, 25 innings. Jimmy's got the endurance. His numbers are very solid in the past 3 years. And I think this could be a breakout year for him. I may have a little inside information on him, but I think he's definitely a guy that I would bet some money on. So great recap. Love the pitching. Let's move on to the third dimension, fielding, of course. So every roster is going to be tasked with acquiring one fielder, presumably someone who's going to get a fair amount of time in left field or right field. But even some of these pitchers who spend half the season pitching, half the season in right field, that's a great value spot as well. So Grant Boyd, who's the fielder? Who's a couple fielders that you've got your eye on this season?
I'm actually looking at two of you, John Calloway and Peter Leicht, both locked into your roles and coming in at a bit of a discount to the top tier guys. Should just get the volume needed to support that section of my lineups. I'm going to be looking more for savings in the hitting section personally.
Perfect. Understood. John Calloway, who do you got?
I'm going to go with the fellow Yank, Scott Poley. I won't touch on it for a while, but tell me I'm paying $250 for a guy who, arguably may get the same amount of volume that I do, being on the opposite side of the field. I do that every day for my guy in blue, and sometime or at one point during the whole season, Scott's always risking his body for every single one of the plays out there. Last year we saw him dive over the fence and almost shank himself with something coming out of the ground. I just love the hustle, but I may get kickback on this one here, but Johnny Light, man, the guy's a gamer. He hustles, and his numbers may not reflect a betting side, but I think when you add hustle and a little bit of skill together, it may turn out favorable for us.
Yeah, I think John Light, he presumably will own left field for the Expos, and I think this year we're kind of looking at a different Expos team. You got two dominant aces on the mound who are really going to, I think, inspire the defense behind them. He's a low-value guy, $2 for John Light. He's going to get total chances, so I do like that pick. Edloe, what's up? What do you got?
All right, so two underrated fielders I'm looking at this year is number one, Keaton Adams. Remember that name. So right now, with his statistics, he is projected for a negative value in fantasy points based on last year's projections. And just based on the fact that you're trying to find every little piece of value in this entire draft, you got to go for the guy who cannot get any worse. So that's why I'm picking Keaton Adams for 2020. And second, I'd like to pick Paul Castellano. Peter, on the last leap year, do you know how many putouts Paul Castellano had?
40.
That's incorrect. I don't know either, but what you want to do on drafts like this is you want to draft people with information that nobody has, not information that everybody knows. Chris is a good fielder, sure. Everybody's got great hitting, sure, but nobody knows anything about that leap year Paul Castellano, so we're going to be looking for that for underrated fielders.
That's the kind of insight you can't find anywhere else but this podcast. Edloe, hats off to you, brother.
Thank you very much.
That's why you're here, Edloe. That's beautiful. The Keaton Adams pick, I love that. I think, Brian Benware has been a cornerstone for the Astros in left field. Potentially some injury history with him that we may talk about a little later, and I think Keaton would be the next guy in line to fill in that role and take those chances. For me, it was mentioned before, I got to go Scott Poley. He's always out there in the field, hasn't made an error, according to the Wiffleball website, in the past 3 seasons, and he gets plenty of chances. He'll probably pitch 15 to 20 innings to supplement Jackson, so he'll get some time and some value there, but he's probably going to be in right field. Maybe split it with Jackson a little bit, but he's the captain of the team. He wants to be out there in the field. He wants to be diving across the dirt with his shirt off, and I love all of that. And I'm going to go Kyle Burita with my second pick. He's got a 2.5 $6 value. I'm assuming he's going to pitch roughly 20, maybe more innings. And when he's not pitching, I see him in right field. I see Blake out there a little bit, but I think that, Blake may defer to Breida. I think he's a gamer. He's competitive as hell. I think he's going to be out there similarly kind of making plays, diving around. So great picks all around. I get really excited about these picks and these undervalued players, probably why I'm going to submit at least 7 or 8 lineups myself. Appreciate you guys doing that, but that was great. Let's talk up some guys that are undervalued, but now we get to the hard part. We're going to have to break some hearts, hurt some feelings, because we're going to flip the script and we're going to talk overrated players. There's some guys out there, you might look at their value, you might say, what? That kind of money out there. And don't worry, because there's a good chance that the guys that we pick on probably aren't going to listen to this podcast either. So don't worry. And if they do, we'll be okay. We'll come at them with unified force. But anyways, let's talk about overrated players. Their value is a little too expensive for your taste. Let's go with a couple hitters to start, John Calloway. Who do you have your eye on there?
You guys aren't going to like this. You really aren't. And it even pains me to say this, but Ty Butler, he's got a pretty heavy tag on him for this upcoming season. He's obviously productive, but when you're the guy with the most strikeouts in a 3-year span, it's hard to build a lot of confidence around that, because you may not know which year you're going to get from him. It might be a high return, high strikeout year, but I'd rather take the guy with middle of the road home runs, and because he's their leadoff hitter, correct?
He usually is, yeah.
Yeah.
I need him on base. I can't have him giving me 15 strikeouts a season. It won't be acceptable for that price tag. But obviously he's an elite player everywhere else. So, and I'm sure somebody here on this podcast could argue that he's an elite hitter, just not for me. The second guy that I have is overvalued on the hitting side is Brett Spencer. He's one of the older guys in the league. He's top 7 in strikeouts in 2017 and 2019. With him switching teams, that could be a hard transition. Obviously, you can't count him out, but my prediction is that it's going to be a rough transitional year for him.
Perfect. Love the insight. Edloe, let's go to you. You got a couple players that you want to call out here?
Yeah, I got a couple overrated guys I think that you should not be spending your budget upon. One of those is Kevin Poley. Now, I know he's very close with the Skibby brothers, so I think if there's any way he might have texted in and gotten his value bumped up on the sheet a little bit, because the way I'm looking at it, among qualified hitters, he is the 3rd most expensive person to buy per their fantasy point value. I'm not spending my budget on that.
Hot take.
And second of all, I really am not interested in spending any money whatsoever on Matt Egerstrom. Now, I know that sounds crazy. I know it does. But I'm looking at him, and he is the worst regression from last year, or from 2018 to 2019, of any player in the SWBL. Now, not that you had much to regress down in the first place, but I am staying away from that like the plague, which is a very timely reference.
That is very timely. Grant Boyd, what say you?
So for me, I'm going to start, and this will come across as very blasphemous probably. Gus Skibby, I think, is overrated here. Obviously, you can't knock the production he's bound to put up. He's on a strong team. He's going to get those RBIs and runs coming to him. But at the price tag, when you look at the $4.50 range, I'm just, if I'm looking for savings and I'm wanting an extra 50 cents to spend on a pitcher or a fielder, that's going to be the first place I cut probably, because I do think all those 450s are on the same tier as him in terms of fantasy production. So yeah, sorry, Gus. You know I love you. But that's where I'm at. My second pick, I'm gonna do a grouping of all the $3.50 players,
Come on,
which
come on.
includes John and Pete here. Again, you know, they're quality bats. John's lefty, which goes against him, and his home run rate is a little scary. But I look at that $3 range, and I have a hard time not just paying down there and saving another 50 cents. So it's, you know, we're talking about pennies here, but that's the type of calls you got to make when you're filling out these lineups.
See, you know, me and John, we're doing okay after that. No hard feelings. That's just.
We're good.
And you know, let me chime in. I've got a couple of my own. You know, I'm going to echo Kevin Foley at a $3 value. You know, I just really feel like this maybe could be the year that the Yanks are going to need to bat 5, or at least give Jackson Crowley some more bats that he rightfully deserved. He's had a smaller sample size over the years, but when you put him in, he gets on base. And he's the ace of that team. So if he were to want some more bats, I think that it'd be hard to say no. But I think, you know, when you think about the Yankees, Kevin, you know, 4th or 5th best hitter on the team, you know, if Scott comes up with ducks in the pond, he's probably going to knock him in. Same with Bacula, same with John. So I think those guys are really going to seize those opportunities and get that production, which is going to kind of suck it away from, you know, the 4th or 5th best hitter on the team. So that's my first pick. And next pick, also a guy at a $3 clip, which I have some insight into, but I got to go Kyle Cornell here. You know, I definitely can't put my eggs in one basket in terms of the Brewers. Kyle's value, you know, according to Fantasy, it kind of puts him in that 14 to 24 range as far as player ranks. But since we switched to the first pitch strike era the past 3 seasons, he's been just outside the top 30. So it's really not matching up with his value. You know, he was a number 2 MVP guy right before we switched to the first pitch strike era. So I think there's definitely something to be said about that new first pitch strike rule impacting his play. You know, he's one to kind of give up that first pitch and just kind of take swing just to get the nerves out of the way. And I don't know how that's been working out. He's got potential for sure, but certainly as a Brewer, that's not something I'm going to invest in either. So some great insight there on the hitting side, everybody. So now let's move down into the pitchers again. You know, there's a few high dollar guys up there at the top. A lot of mid-tier guys, but then, you know, who really knows who's going to be doing a lot of pitching? We think we know, but, you know, time will tell. So let's start with you, John. As far as the pitching side, you got a couple of guys that you are staying away from this year?
You know, you hit it on the head there. You know, we got some middle-of-the-road guys, and we sprinkled in some higher-valued price tags on some guys that maybe shouldn't be there, but my first on the overvalued side's got to be David Olderman. I think, you know, he's one of the younger guys in the leagues. He does seem level-headed on the mound, which is a good trait for somebody at that age. But, you know, personally, I've hit him pretty well historically, and the lack of movement on his pitches, and he seems to spot pitches pretty consistently. I think it makes for an easy transition at the plate. My second overvalued, and this is contrary to a lot of what you guys are saying and thinking, but it's going to be Breida. There's going to be a lot of unknowns with him splitting time with Chad, and you know, I got to assume that it'll be pretty hard for Kyle to find a groove compared to the high value on him. My hope's that Chad takes over and Kyle just gets run off the mound for fantasy purposes. And, you know, we were talking about it earlier, but Will Rath, I know this is my third, but we're uncertain about where he's landing this year on the league, right?
Right.
Yep.
We got to get him off. Get him off the list. Shouldn't even be looking at him.
Yeah, you know, for a guy like Will, you know, the rumor is, you know, he's going to miss 80% of the regular season. So, you don't want to, if you dial his dollar value down to say $2 for that reason, you never know if Spencer Bogat or Chris Metter are spouting some propaganda just for that exact reason, to get his value down, to then grab him. He's going to be there the whole season. He's going to deliver tons of value. So you kind of got to price him at a $4 clip where he normally would be. So he's probably not going to be a guy that's going to get drafted very well. I'll echo the Olderman comment. I think especially him going to a new team, he could very well be the ace, but I think new environment could definitely impact him a little bit. Edloe, how about you?
Oh no,
Eddie?
I'm just in awe.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't believe that Jackson Crosley is still $5. It's unbelievable. This guy's gone through the list 1,000 times. He's seen the lineups a million times, and yet he's still good. You need to be contrarian when you're trying to find value in your investments. When people zig, you zag. I'm zagging with Jackson Crosley. And second of all, I think I'm going for somebody who I think is incredibly overrated at a whopping price of 50 cents. Mike Durstein listed at 50 cents for a pitcher. Let me tell you, just take those 2 quarters, rub them together, and toss them in the trash, because they're not going to get you anything from Mike Durstein. I haven't talked to the guy in, I think, about 2 years. I don't even know where he lives. Don't put your money in Mike Durstein's pitching.
Yeah, we were just really trying to be nice and inclusive with Mr. Durstein, but I gotta agree. Grant Boyd, how about you?
Well, first I want to just say I think Edloe might be giving away too much actionable info on this podcast. I think we probably need to just put the proper disclosures at the end of this, make sure nobody's, betting the house on this. But my picks for overrated are both of the Expos aces. And the reason being defense and innings cap. Neither one of them can go 30 innings. That's a fact. So I'm thinking it's going to be close to 25-25 split, which puts a cap on their production. And then I do agree that John Leicht is, a bit of a gamer. He's like a regular old Jay Cutler out there in left, but he has hit some bad streaks. But I do respect the game, respect the hustle, the sweatpants, all of that. But yeah, I think it spells bad news for these Expos aces.
No, I gotta agree there. I think when you mention John Leicht and left, I think of Luke Bacula, even myself at times, I think you're gonna see guys that are gonna make some plays, but you're gonna see guys maybe have an error here and there that maybe those tier 1 fielders wouldn't make that error. So you got to give them a little credit, but it is definitely a big swing going to Brett Spencer, going from the Rockies with Brian Kenny to the Expos. Brett's actually on my list. He's my first guy. At $1.50 price. I think his value is definitely maxed out. On a new team that's 2-3, you don't have Brian. You're going to have less wins. He may not even be the ace of the team. I mean, I trust Jimmy Nelson pretty well, but I don't know if I can buy in on Brett. And my second pick would be someone who's probably going to get a ton of innings and be the ace, but it's Spencer Bogat of the Twins. I think that if Will's out, the pressure is definitely going to be on him. I'm sure he's going to throw 30 innings, but I think we've seen him. If Spencer's going to go 4 or 5 innings deep in the game, I think hitters typically may adjust to what he's thrown and kind of catch up to him. I think, Jackson Crosley can throw the same thing over and over, but it's tough to hit guys like Spencer, even Sam Skibby at times. They'll catch up to you, and they're going to make adjustments. I just think the pressure, it's really going to be a pressure situation for Spencer without Will. Maybe Edloe, it sounds like you're the next guy who's may have to throw 15, 20 innings. What do you think?
You never know, and I can't divulge that information at this time.
You never know. Perfect.
You never know with those Twins. Spencer's always spitting stuff out that is trying to mislead us.
Mm-hmm. So he's spitting on me too.
That's just because he doesn't like you, though.
So we're going to move into our final dimension in the overrated category. We're going to jump back to fielding. As we mentioned, you got a couple studs up in tier 1, a few other guys that get quite a bit of playing time. But let's start with you, John. Who do you see as 2 fielders that you're not going to be investing in?
Guys, how is Benware a top 7 pick? He's had 13 errors over the past 3 seasons. I mean, normally I would trust the data here, but you're telling me that Brian's out there over Rita, Gus, Spencer, Jackson, Luke. I could create a longer list, but he's goofy out there. He's one of the older guys. Some would even call him a little bit unorthodox. I'm not confident in him or his surrounding cast. My second Rookie of the Year candidate, Leon Cherry. He and I went to school together down here in Mo State. I played a lot of sports with him. He's in good shape, don't get me wrong, but the lack of adjustment and overall athleticism is very scary. I would not roll the dice on him.
Understood. Edloe, how about you? Let's hear that fascinating insight.
Well, I got to go with 2 picks here for most overrated fielder. And that first pick I'm going to go with, it's got to be Luke Bacula. I've seen that guy for a straight 10-minute inning just booting ball after ball after ball. The fact that he's even in the 250 territory is absurd. And I'd like to have a word with whoever made these numbers so I can tell them what the deal is, you see. Second, I'm looking at this list, and I am seeing myself listed here at about $1 for fielding. And let me tell you, if I'm listed at $1, that's overvalued by $1.50. If you're picking me for fielding, they need to take some from your budget and give it to somebody else who knows what they're doing. So I wouldn't advise putting any money down on me.
That's some modesty right there. I would assume that the price tag lends some possibility to you pitching and maybe getting some of those easy putouts. But, we love the humble attitude that you just brought.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edloe. Grant Boyd, how about you?
Yeah, for my first choice, I'm just going to take the grouping of the top. This is the lame out here, but the top tier guys, Metter and Kenny, I think obviously strong, and they're going to get you there. But this is a spot, and I alluded to in my underrated fielding category where I'd prefer to pay for the lower priced guys that have a established role and are going to be out there getting all the putouts and all of the assists in left. For my second pick, I'm going to go with Edloe Donnan. I don't even know what he costs. I forget everything that he just said, but just a complete garbage pick. And I think I'm just going to delete the whole lineup if I get to that point and I'm considering him.
I agree. Hard agree.
Hey, there you go. I gotta love that. I'm with you, Grant. I feel like the values of Metter and BK, I think they're kind of maxed out. You can easily see a John Calloway, a Ty Butler, maybe a Peter Leicht, maybe a Paul Castellano kind of creep up into that range at a cheaper rate. So I'm with you there. My first guy overrated is going to be Brian Benware at 250, of course. He's been fourth in total chances the past 3 years, but he's coming off a pretty serious injury, and he commits more errors than the average left fielder, which is going to bring his value down. I think, like we mentioned earlier, I think Keaton Adams could slip his way into that role. Chris Oberlore's a guy that they've been touting for several years who's going to be there for about half the season. He could slip into that role, so his chances may go down this year, and that's a major injury concern for me. The next guy is a new guy that a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's Evan Sibbett, new Diamondbacks rookie. He's got a $2.50 value. As far as I know, this guy, he's an NWLA legend. He's got experience. I mean, he's going to come in and he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year if it's not Leon Cherry of the Royals. But has he seen the hill in left field, and has he seen the trees in right field? No, he hasn't, unless he's been studying them on YouTube. I can trust a rookie outfielder in that terrain, in this kind of dynamic environment. So I gotta throw him up there. I ain't paying for it. Thank you, folks. We're gonna move on to our last segment here before we kind of wrap it up. But I think this is an interesting one. We're gonna talk about what division of the three everybody thinks is the toughest division. For the three guests that we have here, John, Grant, and Edloe, each coming from a different division. Side note, each of these three are representing the three teams that have won a SWBL championship as well. But I think it'd be interesting to hear what division do you think is the toughest of the three and why? Let's start with you, Edloe.
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, I think all divisions are very solid this year. I think it's well placed. Everybody's got a shot to win. Everybody's got a shot to lose, and that's what we really like about the SWBL. But for my pick on the toughest division has to be the Glendale, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram division. Now, I like to also call this division the Touched by the Angel division because I have played for every team in this division except for the D-backs, which I actually was inducted as an honorary member at the end of last year. So, they're just solid all the way up and down. They got a lot of good banter. They got a lot of really good chemistry between each other, but they're also just really great wiffle ballers.
Beautiful. Love that. And Grant, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. The 222 home run, 7th all-time, 2-time champion. He knows a thing or two about wiffle ball. What can you say? I just think that the Royals and Twins as a pairing of Tier 1, Tier 2 edge out the Yankees and Brewers for me. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm waiting to see the Brewers take that leap forward, and I think they have it in them. Gotta wait and see it. So that's where I lean.
John Calloway, you going Glendale as well?
After I didn't realize I was being persuaded during that, spiel by Edloe and Grant, but I think I'm gonna change my pick from my own division, the Cardinal Blind division, and switch it over because I could go on about the stats in our league and the Cardinal Blind, a lot of top 10s going on there in all three categories, but the fact that Twins are in a Tier 2, that scares me if I'm any other team going against them. Twins and Royals in the same league. After what you guys said, and even after glancing at the statistics, it's pretty scary.
Understood. Well, John, let me see if I can get you to hop over the other side. I understand. I think we can all agree it's definitely not the catching division. But I am going to tout the Cardinal Blind division. When you look at the Tier 1 teams, you got the Yankees, with the front office, number 1 overall. I think that's the one team that nobody wanted to play. You jump down to Tier 3, and you got to deal with the Expos, who normally, maybe it's great to deal with the Expos, but now you got two of the top 4 pitchers in the league with the right motivation. That can be a team. They're definitely going to be a spoiler. They're certainly going to win a game or two from these Tier 1, Tier 2 teams. And then the Tier 2, so I think in Tier 1 and Tier 3, it's a no-brainer. Tier 2, it gets a little gray. It's hard to pick the Brewers over the Twins, as you mentioned. But the Brewers did beat the Twins and the Royals last year. Granted, they've maybe had some trouble with them in the past few years. But I gotta go with the Cardinal Blind division. You got the defending champs, the scary Expos, and I guess the hungry and thirsty Brewers. So there you go. Well, guys, this has been a wonderful event here. I'm going to do a quick recap of our sponsors and thank them because we all know that all 9-10 of them are listening intently. The second this video gets posted, they're listening to it. They're on top. They want to hear their names recognized. Real quick, let's go through them. Our division sponsors, we've got the Ketting Associates, Glendale Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, etc., and Cardinal Blinds. Next, we've got Daily Smokehouse at the corner of Doherty Ferry and Big Bend, and they were the official sponsor of Fantasy Wiffleball, so we really appreciate their efforts and their contributions. Don't forget Andy's Frozen Custard. If it's not cold, you get your money back. Reuben Brown, sponsor of the K's for Buddies program. When we strike out, good things happen for children in need. We've also got Breck X, the official merchandising partner of the SWBL. If you're not satisfied with your order, knock on Brett Spencer's door directly, day or night, and he will ensure that you are pleased. Cooper's Hawk Winery and Restaurant. If you're trying to impress a hot girl or apologize to your wife or significant other, spread your wings and fly to Cooper's Hawk. Gold's Gym, official sponsor of the Home Run Derby. Dick's Sporting Goods. There's no better place to get your balls than Dick's. And what about our last unofficial sponsor at this point, Joey B's, at the corner of Manchester and Sulphur Springs. The SWBL was recently kicked to the corner, so we were on the rebound looking for a place to drink away our sorrows. Joey B, if you're listening yourself, come on down to the SWBL and check it out for yourself. We would love to support your restaurant with our coronavirus check. Well, that's it for the sponsors. We really appreciate them. We appreciate the three of you guys for being on this podcast. I want to take a quick moment for each of you to kind of give your final parting thoughts, anything that you think we missed that is relevant for the listeners. Grant Boyd, we'll start with you. What do you got?
Happy to be here. I think we got something going here with the Fantasy SWBL. I think, it'll add some excitement to the weekend. I know there's lots of gamblers we got at the Skibby grounds there. So I think we keep this going. I think it'll be fun.
Love it. How about you, John?
Like Grant said, we got a lot of guys that like to play with their money. My hope is that it pushes those who are those borderline guys that you may consider a risk to really step it up this year and really light up the competition, regardless of what tier they're in.
Perfect. And Edloe, we're going to end with you. What do you got?
I'm just excited for this season. When it comes, and all I'm hoping is that the front office makes a good, educated decision on what day to choose for this wiffle ball tournament. Otherwise, we'll all come after you.
Understood. I will pass that on to our beloved commissioner, Sam Skibby, who, without him, nothing would be possible. We love the Skibby family, and we're looking for the backyard. Whether it's Memorial Day, Labor Day, it could be Christmas Eve. I'm still showing up. I don't know about you guys. We appreciate your time. We'll go ahead and end it. We'll cheers, and we will be on our way. And thank everyone for listening. And we'll take it from there. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.